Hey, folks, welcome back to the Field and Garden Podcast. It's your friend, Lisa Mason Ziegler, and I'm really glad that you're here. So, friends, we are bringing you so much information, and I realize that all these lives that we do every week across all these different platforms, covering everything from flower farming to Florist Buying Local and building their businesses on that, to growing in hoop houses, to where to get your bulbs. So many pertinent topics, right? And so what we're doing now is we're kind of cherry picking some of those to actually bring to you here on the podcast because we know how easy it is to just download and listen, right? So today's recording is Ellen Frost of our good friend Ellen, who is the business owner and entrepreneur of Local Color Flowers. That's the name of her Baltimore, Maryland design studio that only sources flowers grown within 100 miles of her design studio. And y'all, she operates year round. Anyway, so she has created this florist buying local movement where folks, she's helping others see the way to learn how to connect with local growers, how that works, what that looks like, and helping them along the way. So she does a weekly show over on Clubhouse called Florist Buying Local. It normally happens on Tuesday mornings at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Sometimes that varies. And she's also created a great Instagram page that is Florist Buying Local Flowers, where she is just sharing teaching really how florists and designers can start like sticking their toe into this pond of really rich goodness and gorgeousness with these local flowers that are being grown literally in people's backyards and they don't even know about it. The florists don't. And so she's just helping to kind of break that ceiling that I think a lot of florists and designers just aren't even aware of the top quality, incredibly amazing, and the vast sheer volume of cut flowers that are available locally. And just marketing that and building that, putting it in your business's little basket to really allow them to build their businesses. So, today's show she called Sourcing Flowers for a Really Big Wedding Weekend. And it was because she not only had 6 weddings, y'all. She doesn't normally do 6 weddings in a weekend, but with all this rescheduling and craziness, it kind of worked out this way. But in addition to that, she had other events that she had to cater to. So she is walking us through kind of how she sourced, like, well, what she said here, because it was before it actually ended up happening, would have been 3 to 6,000 stems that week from local growers, and just how that all kind of played out, the whole process that she goes through, and how she's buying from like 12 to 15 different growers. And friends, let's just take a listen to this. Was Ellen's first time running a clubhouse room by herself, and I think she did a really great job. So let's take a listen.
I am going to tell you a little bit about our process today for sourcing flowers for a big wedding weekend. This weekend we have 6 weddings. I'll tell you why that is in a minute. But if you have any questions, please raise your hand and we'll put you in the queue. And if I call you up on stage, please just make sure you're muted until it's time to talk. And as I mentioned before, this is my first time moderating a room. So if I'm clumsy in the taking questions part, please bear with me. And we're just going to go about a half hour, maybe 8:40 at the latest. I know we all have lots of things to do right now. This time of year can feel really crazed. And as much as I think we'd all like to just sit and drink our coffee, there are things to do. So let's get started, and I'll tell you a little bit about why we have 6 weddings this weekend. We also have a rehearsal dinner. We also have Rosh Hashanah on Monday, and we also have our weekly stuff, and we're open for retail on Saturday. So not even just 6 weddings, 6 weddings and a lot of other things. Um, so we have 6 weddings. Normally that we would not take this many weddings. However, because of COVID, so many weddings canceled last year and rescheduled, that we had a bunch of people that we were already committed to that were rescheduling for this weekend. And on top of that, we had new customers who had booked this weekend already. This is Labor Day weekend coming up. So lots of interest in this weekend. So we actually have rehearsal dinner on Thursday, 2 weddings on Friday, 2 weddings on Saturday, 2 weddings on Sunday, and then a couple big Rosh Hashanah orders on Monday. So lots going on. We will likely be buying between 3 and 6,000 stems of local flowers this week. So let me just say that again, between 3 and 6,000 stems of local flowers this week. And even if you were buying from a wholesaler, there would be some logistics associated with buying that many stems for one week. But buying local stems in that large number can be a logistical challenge. So I want to just tell you a little bit about how we're doing that. First, we have established relationships with about 30 growers in our region. And now we don't buy from 30 growers every week. On big weeks like this, we're probably buying from 12 to 15 growers. Um, and I just mentioned this. We're not going to get into sort of relationship building right now, but I want to just say that the relationships we have with those 30 growers is really built on 14 years of relationship building. This is not something that happened overnight. We have worked hard over the course of our business to build relationships with growers. We do have that is a new relationship. We just started buying from that um, from it's Old Dominion Flower Co-op. They're located in Virginia, and we just started buying from them in May. They're brand new. So we do have growers that are new relationships, but many of these relationships, like John McEwen from Locust Point Flowers, we've been buying from him for over 14 years, since before we were actually in business. And so having established relationships is sort of the key to all of this. And then next, I would say the really first step we take in sourcing locally for a big wedding weekend is to reach out to the growers as early as possible to let them know that it is going to be a big weekend and to let them know what the color palette is for that week. And I don't do this with every single grower, but I do that with our primary growers, the growers that we buy from every week, the growers that we are buying the most amount from. Um, this is just so that they have a heads up that we are going to be ordering a really large order, and also so that they can be thinking about what they have available for us. This could happen months in advance. It could happen for us this week. I would say that we let them know, yeah, about 4 months in advance, just because we knew exactly what we had scheduled that far out. Um, most local growers are not going to accept pre-orders. So this isn't like buying from a wholesaler where you can buy months and months in advance. Most growers cannot guarantee what they're going to have on a certain week months in advance because there's weather issues, there's all kinds of issues. But some growers will allow you to pre-order some items, some larger items like dahlias. Like some of our bigger growers will allow us to pre-order dahlias. So for this weekend, we did go ahead and pre-order dahlias. We also pre-ordered foliage because some of our growers have sort of not unlimited foliage, but a lot of foliage. And so we went ahead and pre-ordered that as well. So anything that I can pre-order, I will, if the growers will allow us to do that. And for me, it's great because pre-ordering dahlias means that I'm sort of guaranteed my focal flowers for these weddings. And at this time of year, dahlias are certainly the focal flower that we use the most and will be used in every wedding that we have this weekend. Um, Next, I'm going to do my homework. I am going to use the experiences that I've had in sourcing locally over the years. I'm also going to use past availability lists from our growers to map out a potential order to each grower. So, what I mean by that is I'm going to first, for every wedding, write down the color palette, the style, and anything that that client has requested. So if the color palette is white, light pink, and peach, and that client specifically requested cafe au lait dahlias, I'm going to make a note of that. And then I'm going to go ahead and make a tentative order just for my own self. This is my homework, so that when the availability lists come out, I'm ready to make my orders. Now, yes, that does require more work, maybe than, um, well, not more work. It's work that you have to put in prior to 2 weeks before the weddings. So it will be helpful to you if you can map out, okay, for this pink, peach, and white wedding, I'm going to hopefully get um, Lysianthus, dahlias, celosia, snowberry. I'm going to list out all these things and then list out how many of each I would like to have. That way that when the availability lists come out, I can start to place my orders right away. The next thing I'm going to do is, because each grower sends out their availability list at a different time on a different day, I have to have the week before the weddings mapped out so that I know I am in front of my computer at the time the availability goes out. Because especially on a weekend like this, it's a holiday weekend, everybody has a lot of weddings. I want to make sure that I get my order in immediately. So I know that our first grower sends their availability out Tuesday at 8 a.m. That's the week before the wedding. And I am going to be at my computer at 8 a.m. ready to make my order. And I've already done my homework. I've already mapped out what I want, what I hope to get, and I'm going to be ready to place the order immediately. If there are growers on this in this room today, let me just make a note that this is why it is super critically important to send your availability list out on the same day at the same time. This is what is going to make you a great partner for a florist, because that is the only way a florist can really plan ahead for their orders. We do have growers that send their availability lists randomly, and that is more challenging for us as florists because if I am, say, out on a delivery or I'm asleep because I go to bed really early, if a list comes out and I am not waiting for it, if I can't anticipate it, then it's likely that I will not be able to place my order right away. And I know this makes it sound like it's like the Hunger Games, like everybody is clamoring to place their orders, you know, the minute the availability list goes out. And I have to say, during the summer, when it was a little bit slower, that really wasn't the case. But certainly going into the fall, with all of the shipping problems that wholesalers are having and all of the availability issues that wholesalers are having, more and more florists are sourcing locally. And it does sort of feel like the Hunger Games. Like we are all clamoring for the same flowers, for the best flowers. And so I want to position myself in the best position to get my orders in on time. So, a couple other points, and then I'm happy to take questions. I love to hear questions from you all. Um, Next, I am going to think about the one thing to think about is cooler space. So, we have a good size cooler, but on a wedding weekend like this, we are basically going to fill the cooler up in a day or two. And so, we really want to be thinking about a first in, first out process. So some of our growers only deliver once a week. They're coming from long distances, and they only deliver once a week. So of course, I'm going to order everything I can for that one delivery. Some of our growers, like Hill and Homestead, they're a mile away, literally a mile away. And the farmer, Maya, basically has to drive by my house to get to her house or to the farm every single day. And so I can be thinking, for instance, this week we have a white wedding on Sunday. I don't really need white throughout the week. We only have one white wedding. So I'm not going to order my whites for Monday because I know A, I'm not going to have room in the cooler for it, and I'm not really going to start using it until Thursday. I'm just not going to have time because I have so many other things to do. So I'm going to plan to place an order with Maya for Thursday for white stuff. Now she's going to deliver to me this week. She delivered Sunday. She delivered yesterday. She'll probably deliver today. I can be planning out sort of, okay, the first things I need are for the Thursday rehearsal dinner. Let me get that stuff in on Sunday so I can be working on that sooner. Um, if you have unlimited space, this may not be an issue, but we do not have unlimited space. And so we just have to be thinking about what we can take early in the week, use up, move out the door, what we can use later in the week, use and get out the door. Um, the next thing, we have to make sure that we have staff available to meet the growers when they come deliver, or staff available to go out and do pickups if we have to do pickups. And so, because we have situated ourselves now in a position where growers are basically coming every day, we need to make sure that we have staff available and budgeted for time to be there and to meet the growers. We are not a retail shop. We don't have regular hours. And so we have to make sure that we coordinate really well with the growers to make sure that um, we are there when they are going to be coming. So growers, again, if you're listening on this in this room, it's really important to be on time for deliveries. And then I guess lastly, I would just say before we get into questions is that we sell our weddings by color and style. We do not ever sell our weddings by specific flower. And by that I mean we will tell the client right from the get-go, from the very first time we communicate with them. This is our process. We source our flowers locally. We can certainly work within your color palette and your style, but we can't promise any certain type of flower. And if you need a certain type of flower, working with a more conventional florist might be the better bet. Um, Now, you may source conventionally as well, so you may be able to get those things for them at the wholesaler. For us, because we are sourcing everything locally, we work within a color palette and a style. And that way, if we do our homework and we make our practice list and we say, oh, I would really love to have 50 Cafe au lait dahlias for this wedding. So I place my orders and I realize, you know what, I'm only going to get 10 this week. They just aren't ready or they're not available. Um, it's no worry to me because I haven't promised that to a client. I haven't built my design recipe around that certain flower. We don't do recipes. We wait until we see what we have and then we design with what's available. Um, for me, I will tell you that this is probably the biggest piece that um, allows us to not go totally out of our minds. If we had promised certain things to people that could not be available because of weather or availability, we would not be successful in our business. So if you are a designer who is considering sourcing locally, sourcing a lot of your stuff locally, I would say that selling your weddings by color and style is really a key part of the success that we have when we source locally. All right, so that was a lot of talking. And for those of you who know me, I can talk all day long. So let's open this up to questions. I would love to hear questions from you about our process. I'd love to hear if you are sourcing locally for big weddings. Do my tips work for you, or are you doing something different? Raise your hand and I will bring you up and I want to hear from you. All right, let's see what we got. Lauren, let's see if I can add you.
Good morning, Ellen. How are
Hi,
you?
Lauren. Good. How are you?
Good, good. How's it going? Thanks for having this morning talk.
Yeah, I'm excited to be doing it and looking forward to lots more Tuesdays at 8 a.m. talking about local flowers.
Okay, awesome. I'll mark my calendar for it. And also so
Cool.
excited about the Instagram you made for this too. So I don't know if you remember, but I did private message you some of my questions that I had specifically representing the Central Kentucky growers and florists. So I don't know if this is applicable to everybody in the room.
Yeah,
Um,
let's hear it.
So I think probably the most pending question, and I'm sorry I jumped in a little bit late, so I hope you didn't address it, but um, so with we don't have a lot of growers in this area, and we do have like a couple really good, really big growers, but they are able to offload all of their product at farmers market, and they if they're going to sell to florists, they're going to sell to us at retail value. So it makes it very challenging to want to offer a sustainable and seasonal product when you cannot purchase wholesale. And so if you're going to purchase wholesale, then it's like much smaller growers, so you just don't have a large amount of anything. And so I just wondered if you had any advice on.
Yeah, thank you for this question. And I did make a note of your question when we talked on Instagram because I did want to address it there as well. Um, Let me start off by saying, um, well, let me not say that. Um, so it is, I think, key to finding growers that will prioritize selling to florists over other ways of selling. So the majority of the growers that we do buy from, um, with a few exceptions, prioritize selling to florists. And those that don't, like you mentioned, are mostly selling at farmers markets. However, they still do offer wholesale pricing for florists. So it is a little bit crazy to me to think that um, that the florists or the farmers that you are thinking about are only offering retail pricing. I can see where that would be not only frustrating and challenging, but almost um, make it prohibitive to do local sourcing. So maybe advice would be one, um, you know, part of the reason why our growers chose florists over farmers markets is because they could unload huge numbers of flowers at one time rather than spending, you know, several hours loading up their truck, driving to the market, then spending 5 or 6 hours at the market, then driving home, unloading the truck. So you're looking at like 12, 14 hours sometimes for large growers to be at a market. our growers recognize that there is some economy of scale if they can unload the majority of those flowers to one or two florists that are willing to take a large number of products. Um, and so part of it may be discussions with the growers. Um, and if you are, I mean, the challenge is if you're a small florist and your orders are small and not reliable. So, say you have a wedding once a month rather than every week or sporadically, like a lot of us do when we are just doing weddings and nothing else. Um, we don't have a lot of leverage with the grower. Um, but if you are a larger florist and you can say, look, I'm willing to buy, I don't know, 500 stems, 800 stems. I mean, that's a ton of stems, but I'm willing to buy some large amount of things from you. Um, would that be possible at a wholesale price before you go to market? Do you know what I mean? So that they can be sort of guaranteed a large order prior to going to market. Um, And then I would say, because none of this is fast, none of this is quick. Um, we do have growers that started out selling at markets, and it took a couple seasons of, sort of really close relationship building and really sort of growing together for them to say, okay, you know what, it actually is in my better interest to sell to florists or to prioritize this specific florist because they are willing to buy a lot of product from me. And yes, I'm still going to do the market, and yes, I'm still going to have a CSA, but I'm going to do that as um, sort of the backup to florist sales. And so, again, that's not quick. And you have, as the florist who wants to sort of develop these relationships, I do think, and I know this is hard to hear, it's for us, we always have a very long game thinking. So I'm always thinking, you know, how is this going to affect, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years down the road? Um, so yes, it may not be great now, but if I keep working at it and I keep communicating and I keep committing to buying and I keep sort of relationship building, then maybe in a couple seasons we'll be in a better position. Um, I know that's not probably the greatest answer, but I would say maybe a two-tiered approach. Like one is really the things that they don't like, you know, and they're processing sound to you. And then maybe seasons down the road, you're in a better position with them. And then also reaching out to those larger growers and saying, look, I'm um, willing to buy from you sort of every week consistently. Would that be possible at a wholesale price? Um, I don't know if that's helpful.
It is. It's insightful. You brought up some things that or reinforced some things I think that I knew, and then brought up some things that I hadn't considered on our end. Like you said, the inconsistency, right? So if you're a new florist and grower like we are, then it's hard to, like you said, be a reliable source for someone who wants to do wholesale when you're only ordering once every 2 weeks or once a month kind of thing. Um,
But I
that
will say, Lauren, because I feel like when we were starting out, we were like that. And for many years, we're like that, right? Like we didn't have the clout, we didn't have the jobs, we didn't have the consistency. But I feel like I always told the growers, like, I'm committed to this. And when we have work, we're buying from you. And my intention is to grow the business. And so the more the business grows, the more I'm going to buy from you. Um, so I wanted them to know, I wanted them to be clear that while I may be a small player now. My plan is not to be a small player forever, and I want to continue to grow and continue to buy from you. And so even that kind of communication may help, may
That's great. They and I think, well, I've just ultimately decided I'm going to grow a lot more of my own stuff to mitigate, especially with the travel issue. So this particular large, very, very good grower that I'm thinking of lives quite far, and they also don't offer deliveries, which, as you know, is incredibly difficult when you're trying to
yes.
prep flowers and get ready for a wedding. So, yeah,
And
Kentucky
I
has
think
some.
that would go back also to trying to develop and um, like really build those relationships with people that will prioritize you as a florist and will offer delivery, because it's a lot of those growers who are prioritizing markets that are like, well, I don't have time to deliver to you because you are not my priority. My priority is getting ready for market. And I have a grower like that. My friend John, I buy from him every week, but he will not deliver during the week because his priority is getting ready for market. And so if I can pick up at the market, that's great. But otherwise, he is not going to, um, he just doesn't have the capacity to deliver.
Makes sense. Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you. So as we wrap up, let me think about some takeaways for you today. I would say, florists, start building your um, relationships with your farmers now. The longer you have to build those relationships, the better. Um, be sure to be, if you can, be selling weddings by color and style. Also, remember to do your homework um, and get those orders prepared and ready uh, ahead of time so that you're ready to make those orders. And I and make ordering a priority. Um, make ordering the thing that you spend a lot of time on this week. So hopefully that is helpful. I make this a regular thing, so you can find me here on Clubhouse again next Tuesday at 8 a.m. Be sure you are following the Florist Buying Local here and on Instagram and Facebook, and we will certainly share lots of information about our next topic. And if you have ideas for topics, I would love you to send me a direct message either at Local Color Flowers or Florist Buying Local on Instagram. I'd love to hear your ideas for topics, and we will try to address them. All right, everyone, have a great week. Stay cool, getting cooler in places. And we will see you back here again next Tuesday at 8 a.m. Thank you.
So, folks, what we need to do, if you're a flower farmer and you're listening to this, our job is to get Ellen's messages out to our customers, those commercial customers, florists, designers, because y'all, she is helping them to see how much more they can buy from local growers, us. So, as flower farmers, we want our customers to learn from Ellen. Ellen is showing them how to work with us, how we can work together to make this work. So, folks, if I was you, I would share that Florist Buying Local Flower Instagram handle with them, reposting those posts on your feed and being sure to get your customers on your feed, right? That's a great way to introduce them. There is also a closed Facebook group. This group is not for farmers, y'all. This is for florists and designers. It's a new Facebook group that was just been created called Florist Buying Local. And It has just a few couple of questions that people have to answer, and it's asking, are you a florist or designer, or are you working towards doing that? Those are the people that are being ushered into this group because, y'all, we don't want a bunch of farmer talk over there. We want this to be a place that florists can go and ask each other questions, support each other, to ask Ellen questions. Um, so I hope that we're kind of seeing how this is all playing out. So, friends, until we meet again, you can look forward to more recordings like this that we will be adding of Ellen's from the Florist Buying Local show that is live each week over on Clubhouse. So, folks, as always, if you want more information, head on over to thegardenersworkshop.com. Go to the online courses. You can check out Ellen's amazing course called Florist School Online Growing Your Business with Local Flower Sourcing. And y'all, it's pretty phenomenal. So, folks, till we meet again, ciao.